So just give us, a brief summary of some of the treatments or some of the things that you recommend for anti-aging for the normal individual, a healthy individual.
So I'll tell you, there's the relatively evidence-based stuff, which I tend to talk about the most just because I prefer to talk about stuff that you could prove. But there's
Right.
also the not really evidence-based stuff, but may end up being a bigger deal in the future, but we just don't
Mhm.
know enough to say this for sure. So the evidence-based stuff, I would say number one is getting enough sleep. It's clear that when you don't get enough sleep, you're more likely to get chronic disease, heart disease, high blood pressure. You're more likely to get cancer. You're more likely to get Alzheimer's disease. That will also cause you to have chronic disability, and you look worse and your performance is worse. So sleep, I would say, is number one. In terms of eating habits, it's clear that sugar is bad. Everybody debates diet, right? So I think there are some non-controversial dietary things that are anti-aging. Sugar is aging. Trans fats are aging. So the more sugar, the more trans fats we eat, the worse. Vegetables, particularly things like green leafy vegetables and berries, are most likely anti-aging. They reduce disease burden and they have a lot of the beneficial effects. So if you could say decrease your sugar and trans fats, thank God we don't have too many trans fats anymore,
Yeah.
increase olive oil, vegetables, herbs and spices, berries and fiber. So that's a nutritionally way of reducing aging.
Yeah.
I think there's pretty good evidence, although this is debatable, that fasting has an anti-aging effect. I think time will tell whether this is true. There's some interesting studies, but that's one of the big sort of, I think, relatively evidence-based ones,
Sure,
and
sure.
not
So
overeating.
yeah, as I was kind of looking through your profile before we started the interview, I was like, oh boy, we got to talk about sleep and nutrition. So people that know me know that I don't sleep a lot and that I'm very picky as far as when it comes to some of the things that you mentioned. But it's definitely an area in my life that I'm more conscious of now. And my wife and I, we talk about it a lot that I know I need to do better. So just give us some recommendations on sleep. How many hours of sleep from what you're seeing is recommended?
Well, it's funny because it turns out also that sleep deprivation leads to poor eating. And you probably experience this yourself. If you're on call
Yeah.
and it's 3 in the morning and you're hungry,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a plate of broccoli at that point, right? That's not what you're looking for at that moment. That's not what you're going to eat. So if you're eating at that time, you're sleep deprived, you're going to eat garbage. So
Hmm.
and there's actually, it's not just convenience. It actually, there's a certain craving for those types of foods and you're sleep deprived. So they're actually related. Your sleep and diet actually interface with each other. It's also true that if you eat a lot of food before you sleep, that impairs the quality of your sleep. So sort of bidirectionally, sleep and diet impact each other. But in terms of how much sleep you should get, adults really need at least 7 to 8 hours, and really probably at least 8 hours of sleep per night. And a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, I only need like 5 or 6 or something like that." A lot of surgeons say this. Um, but this has been looked into, and really less than 1% of the population, I mean, probably quite a bit less than 1% of the population needs less than 7 hours of sleep. So if you think you only need 5 hours of sleep, for example, you're almost certainly wrong.
Yeah. I think what I'm guilty of saying that statement. And I think, well, I'll just tell you what I mean by it is that in order to be alert and function, not to say that it's healthy, but I think your body gets used to being deprived in a sense. Not that it's a healthy thing, that's your baseline of deprivation.
Then that may be true. It may be that you can find some ways of accommodating it from an alertness standpoint, although I think the jury's out on that. But
Yeah.
it's still increasing your risk of cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, and everything else, even if you're alert the next day.